Good morning from Athens, Greece. It is 9 o'clock here on this Tuesday morning. What a day in the United States. What a day in Florida. Mar-a-Lago, President Trump's home, raided by the FBI. FBI agents raided Donald Trump's residence in Mar-a-Lago, Florida on Monday in a move the former U.S. president called politically motivated persecution. While the Justice Department has not officially commented on the operation yet, several major U.S. news outlets reported the raid may have been related to boxes of classified documents Trump took with him from the White House, citing persons familiar with the matter. Quote, "These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents." This is according to a statement that Trump released around 7 p.m. local time on Monday. Trump said that nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. According to Trump, the raid was unannounced and that agents broke into his safe. Trump called the operation not necessary or appropriate, and he branded it as a weaponization of the justice system by the Democrats who, and I quote from Trump, desperately don't want him to run for president in 2024. What's the difference between this and Watergate? Trump added. Wow. This is surprising, but not surprising. I woke up in the morning and there was an email from Robert Barnes, and it's like, Trump's residence has been raided by the FBI. So hopefully this evening Europe time, morning U.S. time, morning midday U.S. time, we'll have a live stream, all of us together, and we'll discuss what has happened. Trump should have locked her up when he had the chance. According to the Biden White House, sources in and around the Biden White House say that the Biden White House had no idea what was going on. The only people that signed off on this, that were in the know, the really high up officials, were Garland and Christoforou of the FBI, and they kind of kept this very hush hush. And not even the Biden White House knew about that. Now, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. Now, maybe Biden himself had no idea what was going on. That I can believe. But we all know that not only the Biden White House and the State Department and the Pentagon and all of these high-level officials knew exactly what was going on, but so did the Rhino Republicans. They also signed off on this. I am positive that they gave their green light, go ahead with this. And I'm not talking about the Liz Cheneys, who I'm also sure knew what was going to happen, as I'm sure her father, Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, also knew that this was going down. But Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, I'm positive that all the rhinos, I mean, just name them all. They all knew about this, because they all want Trump gone from the scene. And I imagine these 15 boxes that they're looking into, I'm sure that this is related to trying to find some sort of information that could tie Trump to January 6th, and something that they could use so that they can indict him on obstruction or something like that. Whatever they're holding the other the other people in prison for in DC for the last year plus. That's what they're going to look to pin on Trump as well. And that's what this is all about, trying to find some sort of connection, something that they can use, maybe even slip something in there that they can use to tie Trump to January 6th, because they don't want this whole investigation and everything that they've gone through, the TV broadcasting of all of this, to go to waste. They want it to actually lead to the result, and the result that they want to fabricate is that Trump was involved in this and obstruction, and he can't run for president, and they're going to indict him. They're going to go for an indictment. And I love how like Fox News and like conservative mainstream media, they're like saying, you know, yeah, we'll get them in November. We'll get them in 2024. Laura Ingraham, I think in her monologue, she said, in 2024, you better watch out. Like something along those lines. I'm like sitting there listening, and I'm like, I mean, this is Fox News in general. I'm like, 2024? Malaca. 2024? You think the U.S. is going to be able to make it to 2024 with this administration, with this Biden White House, and all of these guys holding power? You know, we've done so many shows, me and Alexander, and we've had many guests on, and we've discussed about the Biden White House. You know, okay, Europe is cooked. Stick a fork in Europe, in the EU, in Germany. Yeah, these countries are the EU and the countries in the European Union. They're cooked. It's going to be a backwater. It's going to be a complete collapse. Everyone knows it. Even EU officials, if they don't publicly say it, deep down inside, they know it. They decided to sacrifice themselves for the Ukraine scam. But we've always said that the United States can make it out of it. It's a big continental economy. It has the resources. It has the people. It has the Constitution. That was the big thing. It has the Constitution. You know, the greatest Constitution in the world. It has it. And that's what's going to save America. But, you know, I have to be honest with everybody. I knew Biden was going to be bad, like really bad, the Biden White House. I didn't think in 2 years he would cause this much damage to the world. And now I have to say, in 2 years, in the next 2 years going, who knows how much damage he's going to cause, not only to the world, but to the United States. I mean, I don't know if we could take another 2 years of this administration. I mean, my God, I can't believe they have done this. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised, because Roger Stone, Manafort, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, you know, Russiagate, Ukraine-gate, all of these things they've done, deplatforming and censoring Alex Jones, the trial that's happening right now to destroy Alex Jones, like everything they've done. Steve Bannon, just like a couple of weeks ago, Bannon. Everything they've done has led up to this moment. Everything. Deplatforming a president of the United States. And then they have the audacity to lecture the world about free speech and human rights. You deplatformed the president of the United States. I just want to know, how is the U.S. going to come back from this? You raided a former president's home in the middle of the night when he was in New York, knowing that the Secret Service was not going to be there with him, because if the Secret Service was there, I don't know what would have happened if the FBI raids his home and the Secret Service is there and they're sworn to protect Trump. They knew what they were doing. How does the U.S. come back from this? How does the Biden White House dare lecture other countries about democracy and human rights and values? I mean, they're going to do it, but you want to know what the rest of the world is going to say as they look at what's happening right now? They're going to be like, yeah, okay, just take your values and your free speech and your human rights and your democracy, and you know what you can do with it. That is what the rest of the world is going to say. Just when you think Biden can't mess things up or can't screw things up any worse than he has already, he does this. I'm not saying, when I say Biden, I'm being representative of the Biden White House, this Biden administration. We all know that Bidenopoulos was Greece's favorite son, Joe Bidenopoulos. We all know that he was probably asleep. He was in bed by 8 o'clock. Look, I think that's the story. I'll leave it there. There's a lot more to be said, and there's a lot more that's going to be coming out. Make no mistake about it. They want to indict Trump. They want Trump out. And when they get Trump out, they're going to go after DeSantis. They're going to smear DeSantis. They're going to go after DeSantis. They are not going to lose power. The question that everyone has, that I have, that I've had, is what are the Democrats going to do in 2024? What are they going to do in the midterms? They're going to get destroyed. Are they just going to sit there and take this? Have they just resigned themselves to the fact that they're going to lose? All these questions that we've had about the Democrats and the beating that they're going to get in the November midterms and in 2024, I think we've just had that question answered as to what they're going to do. I think that question has been completely answered as to how they're going to approach elections, the midterms, 2024, everything going forward. It's been answered. It was answered with this raid. Yeah. I'll leave it there. We'll discuss this in many, many shows. A lot of shows in the Duran. I'm sure this will be a topic that we'll dig into, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot more news that's going to be coming out with this massive, massive story. Remember the video I did in Belgrade when I was in outside of St. Mark's in downtown Belgrade, and I mentioned Pelosi's trip to Taiwan, and I did a clown world about Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, and his DUI drunk driving incident and the police report. And then I touched upon, kind of about maybe 10 minutes into that video, I touched upon Paul Pelosi Jr. and how he's like, how all of these Pelosi, Biden, Kerry families, they bring their kids along, how they're all, kind of all grifting, and they're just making millions upon millions, grifting off of their parents' power and position and favors. And I said Paul Pelosi is kind of like the goody two shoes. I think I said he's the goody two shoes Hunter Biden. Well, it looks like Paul Pelosi. There's a lot of reports now, specifically news reports from Fox News, which has done a good job. Big props to Jesse Waters on this one. So I don't know if Jesse Waters would ever watch a show like mine, but Jesse Waters did some great work here. And last night, he reported on the fact that Paul Pelosi Jr. was accompanying his mom, Nancy Pelosi, on her Asia tour. Yep, and no one mentioned it. No one said anything about it. As a matter of fact, Jesse Waters did the footwork, and he found out that in all of the readouts and the statements from Pelosi's office, they scrubbed any mention of Paul Pelosi Jr. as part of the entourage when, during a speech from Taiwan officials greeting the American delegation, they greeted and they mentioned the fact that Paul Pelosi was in this delegation. The Taiwanese actually welcomed Paul Pelosi Jr. to Taiwan, and that was in their statements and their readouts. But Pelosi's office scrubbed out Paul Pelosi's presence during this trip. And he was in Taiwan, and there's photos of him in Taiwan. I will actually put a link to Jesse Waters' monologue where he goes over this. There's photos of him in Taiwan. He has business in Singapore. He has business in South Korea, and he was in South Korea In all the countries that Pelosi went to, oddly enough, it seems like Paul Pelosi sits on the board or is involved in these types of renewable energy companies that are in the region. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And I was speaking about Paul Pelosi at St. Mark's, just kind of out of the blue, because, you know, we're talking about Pelosi, and I know that Paul Pelosi and Christopher Hines and the Kerry family and Devin Archer and Hunter, they were all involved in Ukraine. All of them were knee deep. I was actually going to say another body part, deep. You guys know what I mean, deep in Ukraine. Oh, man. But, yeah, they were all just grifting in Ukraine and making bank. And, you know, that's what drives me nuts. And I'm going to get to some news in Ukraine in a bit. What drives me absolutely crazy is conservative West, collective West, specifically US and UK media, that they see everything that's going on, the corruption, the graft, the lies, you know, the Hillary Clinton servers and the Russia gates and the Ukraine gates, even the Alexandra Chalupa and everything that was going on in the United States, in the UK, Christopher Steele, the dossier. They see all of it. They know exactly what's going on. They understand it. They've analyzed it. They've done better analysis than I've done as to everything that's happened over the past 6-7 years. But when it comes to the war in Ukraine, they're like, King Zelensky, King Elensky. Sometimes I say Zelensky, King Elensky. We have to fight for Ukraine. Putin bad. I just sit there, I say, you don't see Burisma? Hello, Burisma? I mean, you don't see everything is connected? You don't see that what you're fighting for in the U.S., the Constitution that you're fighting for in the U.S. is connected to everything that went down in Ukraine? You don't see that Ukraine, that the United States is becoming the Ukraine that you're sending billions of dollars in weapons to? Ukraine is not becoming the West. Ukraine is not becoming the United States. The United States is becoming Ukraine. Because these people, they've been staring at the monster. They've been working with the monster. They've been funding the monster. And now the monster is becoming them. All the corruption, everything that was going on there is being brought home. It's being imported, exported out of Ukraine and being brought home to America. Remember when Biden gave that talk and he said, I'm not going to give Shotkin, the prosecutor in Ukraine. Well, you're not going to get the $1 billion, Mr. Poroshenko, if you don't fire the prosecutor. Son of a gun. That prosecutor was fired. Ha ha ha. Everyone was laughing. It was like at the Atlantic Council, all of these despicable neocons and neolibs. Ha ha ha. We're the masters of the universe. We're so powerful. We can bribe other countries to fire prosecutors. All this corruption is no different than what we're seeing from the DOJ right now. No different. And then they pass this Inflation Reduction Act, which is just really a way to weaponize 87,000 IRS agents with guns so that they can go around and do what they've done to Trump to everybody else. I mean, the writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall as to where everything is heading. All right, we're talking about Ukraine. That's my thoughts on this story for now. I'm not very articulate on this, but I'm very upset about this, and it's all connected. All of this is connected. Everything that's going on in Ukraine, what's about to happen in Taiwan, it's all freaking connected. That's why they love renewables. That's why they love green energy, because they love the environment. They don't give a crap about the environment. They don't care. DiCaprios and Pelosi's and AOC's, all these people, they don't care one bit about the environment. They love I'll tell you why they love the renewable stuff. Because they all sit on the board and they all have shares and they're all getting paid by the renewable companies, because the big oil, the legacy, let's say legacy energy, big oil and all of these companies, they're not on those boards. These companies are aligned with other people, but the renewables, the green energy, the batteries, the lithiums, all of this stuff, well, all of these new companies, just like, the big tech and the Silicon Valley, all the new companies, they didn't look at old school Mitch McConnell, Rhino Republicans when they were putting together their directors and their boards and their shareholder structure when they were giving out shares and starting up. They looked at the Democrats. They looked at the Pelosi's. They're looking at the AOC's and the Bidens and the Obamas, the Netflixes, the Netflixes, and the lithium car battery companies and the Teslas and you name it. All these new, hot, cool, trendy companies that now we have to, take 30-second showers for, and we have to live without heat for, and all of these companies, well, their board of directors are these guys, the new guys, the Paul Pelosi's and the Hunter, who's sitting in his house, $50,000 a day under the protective services of the U.S. government, as he's doing you-know-what and banging you-know-what, right? Uploading it to iCloud. What kind of guy does this? What kind of guy uploads this stuff to iCloud? Like 1,000 times, multiple times. A cry for help. Maybe he wants to get back at his dad. He wants to punish his dad somehow. Deep down inside, he doesn't even know it. That's why he uploads all the stuff. He wants it to be found. Because he wants to punish his dad. He may not know it, but that's what he wants to do anyway. My God, I've got a really good clown world as well. Where do I begin with Ukraine? Okay, the story about the censorship, the weapons censorship. So CBS retracted that story. They retracted it. This has been going on since March, April. Even the Washington Post kind of alluded to this back in March and April, that all these weapons are being sold to the black market or just getting destroyed by the Russians. So all this money that they're giving to Ukraine is useless, all these weapons and this money. This has been going on for a while now. CBS knows about this, but suddenly they retracted it because they're claiming that the source they used has now amended his statement. And it looks like the delivery of the weapons to Ukraine, it's actually now a little better. Not so much of it is getting destroyed or stolen or being sold on the black market. That's their excuse. That is the CBS News' excuse. So they're saying their documentary was kind of done a little further back, like in April, and that's when they were putting together this documentary. But since then, the weapons delivery, the actual percentage of weapons that are now making it to the front line is better than 30%. That's their claim. Here's a tweet from Michael Tracy, a great journalist. He says, CBS claims this documentary is now being updated after it received a giant tsunami of trolling from those who were upset at the information being reported. The original link was taken down. So the story that I did yesterday, that has changed. The Ukraine ministry, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Ukraine Foreign Ministry was super upset. Dmitry Kaluba demanded that CBS conduct an internal investigation to get to the bottom of things. What happened here? Why did CBS retract this? Even though we know that it's not 30% that is making it to the front line. My hunch is it's something like 10%. The Russians are taking out a ton of stuff. A lot of it is getting to the black market. But why the retraction? Why the change in narrative? Why is CBS News now saying that, well, actually, more weapons are getting there? Why? Because they can't have this stop. They can't have this scam stop. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. She came out. They came out and they said this is a scam. Well, the powers that be, they said, what are you doing, CBS News? We got a good thing going here. Off of $1 billion, we're making $700 million, and you guys are going to ruin it with this damn report. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So take down that report, issue a retraction, make up some stupid excuse that your sources are now claiming that things are better, and this documentary was put together a month or 2 months back, and since then the situation has improved and the weapons now are making their way to the front line, and no money's getting lost, everybody. Everyone in America, no money's getting lost. Believe me, I don't have a bridge to sell you. Believe me. Things are much better now. You know, false alarm. That's why CBS is retracting this story, because they're about to ruin the game. They're going to ruin the game. Some people in the Biden White House and the State Department said, CBS, you malakes. You're going to ruin the game here. What are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, so that's how you explain that. Real simple. Real simple. Let's see. Let me do some quick stories before I get to my clown world. Since we're on the topic of Elensky, he wants to ban all Russians. All Russians. He wants to ban them all. This is what he told the Washington Post in an interview on Monday. The West must impose a full embargo on all energy imports from Russia and a travel ban on all Russians for at least a year. All Russians. Just all 150 million Russians. While you're at it, Elensky, why don't you ban the entire Ruski Mir? Anyone that speaks Russian is not allowed to travel. Whether you live in Kazakhstan or Belarus or even Ukraine, even the Ruski Mir in Ukraine, even yourself, Elensky, because we all know that your Ukrainian is crap and that your native language is Russian. Everybody knows this. Am I right? Am I right, people in Russia that know the situation better than me? Elensky's Ukrainian, his Russian, native. Poroshenko's Ukrainian, his Russian, native. Even when he met with the Prime Minister of Moldova, Elensky, they spoke Russian 2 weeks ago. Remember that video that I put up on one of the programs I did? Where he met the Prime Minister of Moldova and they had to speak English because they didn't want to speak Russian with each other because the optics would have been really bad. Even though they both know Russian. And that's the natural language that they're going to speak in. But now Elensky wants to ban everybody. Everybody in Russia, no travel for you. Let's see what he said here. Interviewed inside his fortified office in Kiev, Elensky told the Post that the most important sanctions are to close the borders because the Russians are taking away someone else's land. Russians should live in their own world until they change their philosophy. Whichever kind of Russian makes them go to Russia, make them go to Russia. Whichever kind of Russia, make them go to Russia, he said, according to the Post, arguing that collective punishment was the only way. Collective punishment. Remember these words, collective punishment. Quote, they'll understand then. They'll say, this war has nothing to do with us. The whole population can't be responsible, can it? It can. The population picked this government, and they're not fighting it, not arguing with it, and not shouting at it. The Ukrainian leader insisted that this was the only way to influence Russian President Vladimir Putin, speaking to the Post as if he were addressing the Russian public. He added, you're telling the whole world that it must live by your rules, then go and live there. So I hope Elensky remembers his words here when things collapse and it crumbles down in and around him in Ukraine. I hope he remembers what he says when he says the population picked the government and they're not fighting it. They're not arguing with it, not shouting at it. The population picked the government, Elensky. So, those are the statements from the Ukraine puppet master. He's not the puppet master. He's being the one puppeteered. Other people are the puppet masters. And since we're on the topic of Elensky, and he has such good values, and he wants to, because he's so morally up there, morally pure, and he wants to impose collective punishment on people. How about the fact that Germany is now starting to talk about Elensky's corruption? That's interesting. German newspaper Die Welt has put Ukrainian President Zelensky's secret deals under the microscope by carrying an extract from a new book, which suggests the head of state may have evaded taxes at home. The paper cites part of Elensky, a biography that deal with alleged cases of corruption involving the Ukrainian leader. It says that in 2019, Elensky was found to have offshore accounts in Cyprus, of course, my home island, and research by Slitstvo.info revealed that the former comedian owns companies in the British Virgin Islands and Belize, including the previously unknown Maltex Multi-Capital Corp, which owns apartments in central London worth $7.5 million. Of course, we all know that. The corporation is also said to have received a total of $40 million from Ukrainian oligarch Igor Kolomoisky since 2012. Elensky apparently transferred his shares in this company to a close friend shortly before the 2019 presidential election, which he went on to win. Yeah. The morally pure Elensky, who wants to impose collective punishment on all those who are not at his high level. Looks like he's been up to no good. Of course, we all know how much he's worth and what he's been up to, because no one makes $500,000 being president of Ukraine. You don't make that off of the salary of president, do you? Nor do you make that as a comedian. That's for sure. But that's Germany now, running an article on Elensky. Not a good sign for you. Not a good sign for you, Elensky. We have news coming out of Russian intelligence that Poland is starting to make moves on the west of Ukraine. This is an interesting story. According to Russian intelligence, Poland is not only setting up a scenario to deploy its peacekeeping forces to the western parts of Ukraine, but is also trying to establish control over promising sectors of the Ukrainian economy, first and foremost, agriculture. Of course, agriculture. It looks like Mark Rutte in the Netherlands, he's started a trend, it seems, among EU countries to go after agricultural lands. The SVR claims that Polish companies have taken advantage of the difficult condition Ukrainian farmers are in by arranging to purchase their goods at reduced prices, which is allegedly pushing some Ukrainian agricultural enterprises towards bankruptcy. The intelligence agency claims that Polish entities will then buy up these assets and lands at bargain prices. Does it all sound familiar? This can be illustrated, for example, by the purchase of new barley crop at $30 per ton, which is almost 5 times cheaper than the real cost of this product, the SVR noted in its reports. All right, so yeah, this is all a trend now among EU countries, isn't it? Got to get your hands on that agricultural land. Buy everything up on the cheap. Who knows if Polish authorities and Polish companies buy up that agricultural land? They also have now this Ukrainian citizenship law as well. You know, how close are you to just coming out and saying, look, we're citizens here. This is our land now. We're farming it. It's time that we just make this part of Poland, isn't it? And I don't even think they'll have to fire one bullet to do it, do they? It's just kind of getting absorbed right in as we move along. With that being said, I've got some more stories, but Ukraine is firing on that bridge still, but it's not stopping the Russians. They've created a pontoon bridge, this Antonov bridge. I've butchered the name. Anyway, Antonovsky Bridge. Okay, Maladits, Harasho, Antonovsky Bridge. They're firing on it again, but the Russians have already created the pontoon bridges, and There's going to be no encirclement and none of this garbage Kherson counteroffensive, and we're going to take out the bridge and stop supply lines and encircle the Russians. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. By the way, the Zaporozhye nuclear facility, everything that's going on there, the Biden White House has come out with a statement, and they're saying that, well, obviously they're supportive of Ukraine. They're basically saying that Russia should return full control of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant to Ukraine. They said that fighting near a nuclear plant is dangerous. This is according to Karine Jean-Pierre. She told reporters aboard Air Force One on Monday that we continue to call on Russia to cease all military operations at or near the Ukrainian nuclear facilities and return full control to Ukraine. We are also aware of the reports of mistreatment of the staff, and we applaud the Ukrainian authorities and operators for the commitment to nuclear safety and security under trying circumstances. In other words, the Biden White House is saying, continue your artillery strikes on this power plant unless Russia returns it back to Ukraine. That's pretty much the statement. In other words, just keep on doing what you're doing. Elensky, you have our green light to cause a nuclear catastrophe, because what do we care? You know, nuclear catastrophe, Ukrainians die, Russians die. We're far away. To us, it doesn't mean anything. These are the environmentalists. These are the climate change activists. These are the people so concerned with climate change. And listen to what they're telling Elensky and Russia. We support you. Instead of telling Elensky stop firing artillery at the power plant, even if it is under Russian control, because this is the last thing we need right now. Just keep on doing what you're doing until Russia returns that power plant back to Ukraine. That's their line right there. And the Zaporozhye thing, the reason a lot of this is happening is because, well, a referendum. Zaporozhye officials that are living in areas controlled by Russia, they're ready for a referendum to join the Russian Federation. It's September. They've put everything together. They've put out the announcements, much like the Kherson region, Kherson, Zaporozhye. They're all ready to enter the Russian Federation. So the entire Kherson offensive was Elensky and the collective West lashing out and creating some sort of media optics, spin, fear with regards to the referendum. And now you're seeing them hitting at this nuclear facility because they understand that a referendum is going to happen, and they want to, well, a catastrophe would stop a referendum, absolutely. But they also want to drive fear into all the people in the area and into the world with regards to this referendum. So let's attack the nuclear power plant and try to stop this from happening. And let's make everyone scared to death as to what's going on in the region, so as to prevent this referendum from taking place, which is why you also have Ukrainian police who are going around Nikolaev, and I've actually heard Odessa as well, and they're actually doing door-to-door searches of people's homes. They've put curfews in place, and they're going around knocking on people's doors, and they're looking for collaborators and separatists. The southern Ukrainian city of Nikolaev resorted to drastic measures this weekend to expose what the local authorities called collaborators and separatists, people who harbor pro-Russian sentiments or help Moscow's forces in any way. During this time, residents of Nikolaev are prohibited from going outside or visiting any public places without special permits. In case of an emergency, a police escort is provided, Ukrainian news agency Union said. So they're under lockdown. Lockdown. Law enforcement agencies will use this time to search for collaborators and separatists. Anna Zamazeva, the head of the Nikolaev Regional Council, said the operation is already in full swing and the police will reveal the results no sooner than Monday, according to the officials. According to Zamaeva, police are conducting door-to-door searches in apartments throughout the city. They are searching everyone. Check the ID, mobile phones, everything, she said. The official argued that the collaborators would be much safer behind bars since locals could lynch them if the police simply reveal their identity. It's better for them to remain in prison until we win, she said. Yeah, that's the excuse. We're doing this for your own good. We're locking you down and we're doing home searches and we're arresting you for your own good because, you know, if people found out that you were collaborators, if we announced that you were collaborators without evidence and just kind of throwing it out there, well then, you know, they would go after you. Who would go after you? Well, I'm sure people that are on the payroll of the police would go after you after the police who want to shut you up or want to silence you outed you as a collaborator. You know, this is how it works. Remember what I said in the beginning of the video. Everything that you see in Ukraine is being exported out of Ukraine to the West. We're becoming that monster. The West is becoming that monster that they're supporting. Let's do a clown world. I've gone on long enough. This clown world is also dealing with Elensky, King Elensky, and this is a funny one. This is a good one. This was sent to me yesterday via email from a viewer. President Elensky, 3D projection asks the tech sector for help. I'm going to put a little video here. I won't put any sound on it. This is coming from the BBC, so to avoid any copyright, I'll put a really short image of a 3D virtual Elensky who is going to the tech center. Elensky simultaneously addressed a series of European conferences, appearing in a slightly larger-than-life 3D projection. He asked technology sectors to come together to support Ukraine. That's the clown world. A 3D virtual Elensky now asking, I guess, European tech companies to help them out, to censor, to deplatform, to stop Russians from traveling, to ban Russians. All of these things that Elensky keeps on going off about, even though his time is ticking, tick, tick, tick. He doesn't have much time left. He's still going on about helping Ukraine and helping him impose this collective punishment, right? And now he's appearing as a 3D virtual Elensky. We've hit peak clown world. Peak clown world. And this is scary stuff because, you know, everything that they're doing in Ukraine, they're balloon testing in Ukraine, you know, they're going to do to us as well. So anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. The Duran.locals.com, Alexander's channel, the Duran's channel, Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram. 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.